Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here today. First and foremost, I want to thank all the members of the community that took time out of their day to be here with us. There really is no more important issue than what we're here to discuss today, so I thank you all. We're here on the second floor of the State House, as close to the governor's office as we can be, to deliver an important message from the entire community. So you're going to hear from a number of speakers today. So I'll thank them as I invite them up into the podium. But I do want to thank everybody who's here to speak on behalf of themselves and in their leadership capacity in the community. We're here to talk about education in particular, or education in general, but about the tentative agreement that's been signed between the state and the Teachers Union in particular. Education truly is the pathway out of poverty and the gateway to opportunity for so many of us here in the city. And I saw this for myself. My parents came to this country in the 1970s without much of a formal education themselves. My father studied to the 7th grade, my mother to the 5th grade. And they worked their entire lives to give my sister and I a better life. And they poured their entire hopes and dreams on the education system and what it would provide for my sister and I. And I know that there are families throughout the city that also pour their entire heart and souls and all of their dreams into our public education system, only to find out, either after they've fought the district or after they've realized that it's too late, that they weren't able to give their children the education that they deserved. And this crushes your soul as a parent and as any person in our community, to know whether it's your fault or whether it's not your fault, that you're not providing for your child the very best. And so 2 years ago, we came together as a community with an opportunity to turn this all around. An opportunity for our public education and our public schools here in Providence to actually fulfill all those hopes and dreams that our families put into our public schools. We're here today on the most important issue facing the state. And whether or not this contract actually gets signed, this is the most important decision that the governor and the commissioner of education will ever make in their lives. Whether the governor is in office for 2 years or 8 years or whatever, he will never make another decision as important as what's hanging in the balance today. So we are here as a community to call on the governor and the commissioner of education to commit to briefing the community and allowing them to provide input before the contract is signed. The tentative agreement was announced, but not a single one of the details has been made public to date. The community deserves and owes and is owed this opportunity to know what's inside this contract. Two years ago, thousands of people, thousands of residents of Providence sat through hours of community forums with myself and with the Commissioner of Education because there was hope that this process would lead to real change. The Commissioner convened 8 sessions in 18 days. She said she was committed to transparency and working with the community. And the community responded. The community gave their time to help develop the turnaround plan. They worked on the community advisory boards and volunteered their times in untold number of ways. Well, we're here demanding that the community have the opportunity to know what's in the contract and to be able to provide thoughts and input before it becomes official. And I can't overemphasize how important this decision around the contract is. The reason why we brought the state into PPSD 2 years ago was specifically to reform the contract. Because of the way that state law functions, whatever contract is in place is the same contract that you're going to have into the future, with some slight tweaks here and there every time it's renegotiated, but pretty much it's the same contract and there's little you can do to change it. And that's why when we invoked the Crawley Act and brought the state in, it provided the promise of change. For once, the slate gets wiped clean, and the state has the opportunity to bring together transformational changes and reforms to the contract. But we only get to do this once. Once this contract is signed and it's finalized, this contract is going to govern our child's education for the next 50 and 60 years in the city of Providence. Our kids, and their grandchildren are going to be educated under this contract. We only get one chance to do this right. And this is not a decision that can be made in secret and without any engagement in the community. The governor was asked whether this is a transformational contract, and he said that he would let the contract speak for itself. Well, what we're asking is for the community to be given the chance to speak for itself as well. We need to know what's in this contract so that we can offer our input. Now, we've been very vocal about the challenges that the current contract has. It was highlighted in the report that came out from Johns Hopkins. We know that it's a thick contract. It is so complicated and complex that it takes years for principals to fully master the contract and learn how to work around it. And even after they master the contract, they're still held back because it ties their hands behind their backs. Make no mistake about it. This is a contract that protects adults at the expense of children. It benefits seniority privileges, and wherever there are cuts, whenever there are cuts, it's the new teachers that have to go. They could be Teacher of the Year, but they're still the first to go. It's a contract where bad teachers are shuffled from one school to another, making it almost impossible to fire a teacher for poor performance. Now, I want to be clear about this. Not a single one of us here is anti-teacher. And in fact, that we know there are so many amazing, hard-working teachers in the Providence Public School Department, and we thank them for everything that they do. But let's not pretend that they're all great teachers. There are indeed bad teachers, and they have no business being in front of a classroom teaching our kids. This contract does not allow a principal to do things such as require a teacher to show them their daily lesson plan. We need a contract that allows principals to be in charge, to set the tone and culture, and untie their hands so that they can run their buildings and hold folks accountable. We need to be able to see the details of what's in the contract in order to match it against what our hopes and dreams are. The community deserves to know what's in this contract, and we need an opportunity to provide the feedback to the governor and the commissioner before this document is signed. Now, we also know that this is the governor's contract. It's not the commissioner's contract. We know this is not her contract because we know that she was removed from the negotiation table by the governor. The governor made it clear that he was not going to rewrite the contract, that he was not going to file in court, and that he would only reach a contract that the union agreed to. He reached this contract, and that's why we're asking him to not give the order, to sign it until the community has been briefed and engaged. But we're also here to call on the commissioner, because it's her signature that's required on this contract. The commissioner can also decide to put a pause on this process until the community is engaged. But I know that the Commissioner of Education is in an incredibly difficult position. If she defies the governor and sides with the community, she'll likely be asked to leave or be fired. But to the commissioner, we're here as a community to remind you of the commitment around community engagement and input that you made to us. And to remind you that if you stand with the community, that we have your back and the community will stand with you. And all we are asking, all we are demanding, all we are calling for is that the state share with us the details of what's in this contract before it's signed and becomes a formal document.